All right, it is the 21st of January 2025. Welcome to it. You are tuning into the very first episode in 2025 of the NewsDesk right here on television, where we inform, impact, and inspire you. Plenty of host of stories that we have for you. As always, breaking news and fresh news do collide. In the lead, we are going to be focusing on, everything that has been academics in the 2024 region. We're going to be looking at the results that have transpired within the class of 2024, and we are going to be joined by the founder of an academic coach from Study Bryte Academic Coaching. Solomon Kadiwa is going to be joining us for that conversation as we try to discuss everything around education and how we can definitely change our education and put it into the spectrum that it needs to be. And then obviously I'm going to go behind the headlines with Babalwa Manzana, our news editor, as we try to make sense of everything that has been making news headlines and everything that you have been talking about. You do not want to miss that conversation. A new segment is coming in this week, which is called Africa in View, and our African news editor Sean is going to be joining us as we try to make sense of everything that has been breaking news and fresh news within the African continent. And then finally, Sports Desk is coming in. I'll be joined by my sports editor Khumbudzo Ntshavheni is going to be here with us as we try to make sense of everything that has been transpiring within the world of sports. You do not want to miss that conversation right here on the news. There's plenty host of stories for you. It's the first episode for 2025, and we are going to dive into everything that is breaking news and fresh news. Now, without wasting time, I think it is time for us to make sure that you get up to date and up to speed with everything that has been happening. It's time for us to begin with the big stories right here on the news desk. All right, it's time for us to shift focus into the big stories, and the big stories definitely have to be everything that has been transpiring throughout the first week of transpiration. As we all know that a lot of things have been happening. And reporting live from Johannesburg, Soweto, I am Kagiso Sithole. It's always great to be in your company. Well, let's begin with the big story. The first one that we have seen happening here, we know that Parliament Justice Committee kind of closes the probe against the former Justice Minister Thembi Simelane. And as we all know that Thembi Simelane, the former Justice Minister, was linked with the VBS coffee shop loan that she saw, and also the Parliament portfolio within the Justice Committee was just saying that she is not the right person to be in the seat while there's still investigation according to reports and also the MPA. We also know that she was kind of shifted over or scooted over to become the Minister of Human Settlements, and was reshuffled with the former Minister of Human Settlement Mamoloko Kubai. And we all know that this was kind of a probe into looking into what has happened into this. And the chairperson of the committee, Ngola, says that this confirms their work was purely about conflict of interest, and that they respect the president's constitution prerogative to appoint whoever he wants, scandal or not. Essentially, they have shrunk and said that this is not a circus, but are also not our monkeys. This is a statement by the chairperson of the Justice Commission in the Parliament, Ngola, saying these things, that they respect, what the president has decided on, reshuffling the cabinet and all that. And now that they found that she is no longer the Justice Minister, they definitely have probed her, moving her into making sure that she becomes the Human Settlements. And that is why they are kind of closing down this case and moving it forward. Let's not forget her replacement, Mamoloko Kubai, she has also appeared before the committee, and she hasn't, rather, in this year we are going to see her coming in front of this portfolio, and also coming ahead of this committee to kind of trust to make sense of her appointment in becoming the new Minister of Justice, and how this is going to move forward into that. Justice takes a back seat to the inconvenience. Meanwhile, the public gets to watch over a never-ending drama unfolding like bad, badly written series, and that is what we are seeing. And I wonder, what are your thoughts around this? Are we ever going to see justice, especially when it comes to ministers, when it comes to people on high profiles? Because we see as if that, you know, you will be reported that you have a case, but when it's high time for you to take accountability, you'll either be reshuffled or you'd either be moved into other dignitaries that you will be serving there. But definitely we are seeing that it's moments like these where we wonder that will we ever found accountability? Will we ever found people taking ownership of what they're doing? Or it's just a wish list that we are seeing as a country? However you view it, use the comment section there below, or you can go on all our social media platforms using the hashtag TheNewsDesk. All right, let's move over to the next story. The second story that we are tracking for you definitely has to be around the VBS, or rather I spoke about the VBS story. It has definitely to be around the fact that there has been a lot of crackdowns and shootdowns that have been happening within our country. It may be a happy new year, but bullets are flying around the city. The operation was part of a crackdown in illegal mining activities in Primrose area. One suspect was killed and another injured, and there are 3 that were arrested, while a raffle toiling figurative management had to escape. This comes according to the EMPD spokesperson Anne Makhato, saying that this operation is meant to prevent a repeat of the infamous Stilfontein case, while here hoping that their track record improves. As we all know that the Stilfontein, saga has been happening, where we saw even last year people were asking for tomato sauce and mayonnaise to be sent down there, but we all know that the shafts there have been definitely been emptied out. But we are looking at the fact that there have been shootouts that have been happening as police were trying to probe into the fact that what is happening in that mine shaft, and they were trying to make sure that this mine has not been used illegally like it has been used illegally before. And there was a shootout there, and as we saw that there have been arrests that have been made. According to the spokesperson of the EMPD, we know that a lot of people were arrested, and it's not only illegal mining that wasn't about there, it's about the systemic issues and also the corruptions that we are seeing in our country. Not only do we see that this Stilfontein, these mine shafts that we are seeing, I mean, there is one here around Main Reef Road next to Rivoli that we are seeing also people going there, and a lot of these zamazamas coming out. A lot of reports that have been sent out, they were talking about the fact that they are doing this because they're trying to find employment. They're trying to feed their families. There's no employment. There is all of that. But with their crazy demands that we saw, that they were trying to take them out of the shaft, but they literally didn't want to go out of the shaft. That's what we are seeing there, and we are definitely going to be taking your lead into this. What's your take? Is the crackdown a step forward, or it's just another temporary band-aid that we're seeing that will be grappling the wounds of South Africans? However you view it, please make sure that you use the comment section there, or go onto all our social media platforms using the hashtag TheNewsDesk. And then the last big story that we are tracking for you has to definitely be about the minister in the presidency who is under corruption investigation. Minister Khumbudzo Ntshavheni is under investigation by the Hawks for her alleged involvement in a 2.5 million tender corruption during her tenure as municipal manager in Babalwa municipality. I don't know how you feel about this, but I also feel the same sentiments about, Thembi Simelane moving and being shifted into different spectrums and moved into different portfolios and not finding justice. Yes, I know that we're saying that you are innocent until you're proven guilty, but you are a leader into this. You should be setting by example. But definitely the DA came out to saying that she should step down because of what she has been investigated under. It's also about that the Hawks have apparently wrapped up their investigation, and the docket is now with the MPA. They will see the prosecution, or this will also be yet another episode of an endless tragedy that we are seeing of how to get away with corruption, because that is a series that we are seeing in South Africa, that everyone is moving closer into this series of how to get away with with corruption. The DA, the Democratic Alliance, has called for her immediate removal, citing that the Zondo Commission recommended that stricter oversight over the presidency. Yes, indeed, she is the minister in the presidency, and something needs to be shown, and something needs to be definitely moved over. But here's the real kicker here that we need to find out, that isn't it time that the minister, we've been seeing her going into news reports as an, someone that is fighting, even going back to the Stilfontein case that we saw. She was one of the ministers who came out boldly to say that as the government, we should definitely smoke these people out. And that is what we are seeing there happening with the minister, with Simelane as well. Are we saying that this is deja vu? Last year it was the Minister of Justice, now Minister of Human Settlements. Now we are seeing the minister in the presidency taking the docket there and seeing that what is going to happen. Definitely we are waiting for responses from the presidency to check what the president will have to definitely look into and into this probe, and definitely try to find ways on how this it is, right? It is 2025, folks, and we can finally say that enough is enough, and we'll keep you up to date and up to speed with everything that has been transpiring. Right, let's bring you the poll question that we are asking you, because you are definitely up to date with every story that we have been checking for you. But a poll question that we are asking you is that, should the justice system impose stricter bail conditions for individuals accused of serial crime or important crimes like rape? The three options there for you: yes, to ensure accountability and protect victims. Number 2 is no, bail should remain constitutional right until proven guilty. And then C, it depends on the specifics of the different cases. However you view it, use the comment section there and let us know how you weigh on it. Or you can go on to our story. There is a poll, this very same poll question is there for you to answer. All right, that's how we wrap up the big stories. Right now, more breaking news and fresh views as we go behind the headlines. All right, it's that time of the evening where we definitely go behind site analysis on it, and definitely I cannot do this on my own. TAV's greatest news editor, Babalwa Manzana, will be joining me shortly as we try to make sense of everything that has been happening, right? A lot of stories that we have been seeing shaping up the community, but definitely we'll try to keep track of everything there. And I think Babalwa is here. I'm not sure that you are able to hear me. Babalwa, good evening and welcome, and happy 2025.
Welcome and happy 2025. It's been an amazing year. Good evening to our viewers as well. A lot has been happening. I've been listening that I just wonder what our president will have to say in regards of these allegations that were made, But on my side, I have to tell you behind the headlines, I have the story of Sonia Mbele's son, Donnell, who is facing court on rape charges. Okay, now as I was saying, that this story has actually gripped the entertainment world for all the wrong reasons that I can actually tell you. Donnell Mbele, for those who don't know, who is the son of the actress Sonia Mbele, actually appeared in court today facing 2 counts of rape for incidents that actually allegedly took place in December 2024. Now, the National Prosecution Authority actually says that the matter is now in court ready after an extensive investigation. What's actually striking, if I have to tell you, on my side, Kagiso, is that in the public response, some have actually shown support to Sonia, while others were actually questioning the role of parenting in these kind of situations, and how it can actually get. But I just want us to actually remember that it's actually about the alleged crimes and not about dragging family members into these unnecessity.
Very true, Babs. But another thing that had made me to look at this case in a different manner was the fact that her son rather, actually posted on Instagram a scripture, quoting a scripture from Isaiah 54 verse 17, saying, "No weapon forged against you shall prevail," which adds another layer to saying that he sees himself as a victim. He doesn't see himself as that he has done a crime. And another thing that we need to pose into this is that people think that because I'm your partner for whatever years that it may be, that when I say no, it means that it's a stop it, I like it. And that mentality needs to come to an end.
Definitely, you know what you just said right now, you actually remind me of an episode that was also aired on Skim Sam sometime last year, talking about consent, which is something that it was teaching a lot of South Africans, you know, that you might be with a person, but if someone says no, it doesn't mean that they, like you were saying, that they stop it, I like it. So there's a difference people need to also understand when it comes to consent. It's very important. But this also highlights a broader social issue, you know, how we actually approach these allegations of social violence, like I said, particularly when high-profile figures are actually involved, you know. It's actually a test of whether our justice system can actually balance due processes with the need to address gender-based violence seriously.
And we definitely need to find ways in making sure that we fight this gender-based violence, because it's a very serious thing, looking at the processes of balancing either is it true or is it false, whatever that they were trying to look into. And you know, it's not worth it for him to see himself as a victim. But let's you know, and let the court decide on this, and also the public comments relentless. I don't know, what is your take on this case as justice is served, or does this public scrutiny make it harder for real justice to prevail? Let us know however you view it. Use the hashtag NewsDesk or comment right there on the comment section. Now, moving along from local to international stories here, Donald Trump is back in the Oval Office. We know that his inauguration was yesterday, and in his speech, it was very well Trump, as we know him to be. Trump being the straightforward person and the straight-hearted person, declaring from a national emergency at the south border, and also saying that his administration will officially recognize 2 genders. I wonder what the LGBTQI plus community is saying about what Trump has revealed, right? Let's talk about these gender policies, Babs. You know, it's like we've stepped into a time machine heading backwards. Or how will this play in today's world?
KG, honestly, on my side, it's actually a classic example of Trump, to be honest, playing to the space, you know, reaffirming conservative values while sparking outrage whether else, you know. But, you know, when it comes to policies like this, they don't actually just create divisions. They erase years of progress for migrated communities, honestly.
And definitely this also looks into other plans that he wants. Definitely a lot of the LGBTQ community will raise questions about this. Foreigners themselves also will raise a question around this. But let's also look at the Gaza ceasefire deal that happened. We know that the Gaza ceasefire deal started on the 19th of January 2025, and also Trump's team played a role in securing it, and he's already labeling himself as a peacemaker. Are we seeing Trump as a peacemaker? But how much of this genuine diplomacy and how much of this ops will definitely serve, you know, the world at large?
That's honestly a great question, you know, because everyone was asking themselves basically the same question, you know. But I just want us not to forget that it's the same Trump who actually declared a national energy emergency, you know, to actually drill more oil and cut electrical vehicle programs. So his policies actually seem to be less about unification and more about undoing everything his procedures actually did, you know. That's honestly what I have to say on my side.
Definitely interesting stories that we're seeing Well, one thing sure is that Trump will never fail to conquer and take up the world. Him being back at the Oval Office again makes sure that, determination will definitely put you there. I don't know what our viewers thinking about Trump's second term in office, and also these remarks that he made by the speeches. Use the hashtag TheNewsDesk or comment on our comment section. Babs, what else do we have?
I'd like us to take it back into the African soul, South Africa to be in particular, now where police actually have launched a manhunt for James Ntshavheni, who is known as Tiger. This has everyone sparking, when it comes to these the alleged rather illegal miner who is the kingpin of this. I remember I was also following the story this morning on Newsroom Africa. That it follows the discovery of the 78 corpses at an abandoned mine in Stilfontein last week. So the story is actually very chilling. The fact that the police allegedly helped this kingpin, right, escape, it raises serious concerns, right, about the corruption within the law enforcement, and how do we actually even begin to tackle illegal mining, when the system itself is seems to be compromised?
It's a tragic cycle, Babs, indeed, that we are seeing, that there will be illegal miners, there will be zamazamas who are often desperate individuals for employment and trying to feed their families. And we are seeing that with the growing unemployment that we are seeing in our country, we are seeing that the zamazamas will continue being a part of our crisis, illegal mining. And but the big question is, how did the police let go of this kingpin? A lot of, I've also been following the story on Newsroom Africa. A lot of these zamazamas that have been coming out of these shafts have been saying that they've been held hostage there. They haven't been treated well there. But we are seeing that, corruption runs as deep in our country, and accountability feels like it's such an impossible dream.
That's absolutely true. And what was actually quite saddening for me, I think it's the fact that he was also behind of these things, the demands, and when it comes to the starvations of the people, it's quite devastating. And let's not actually forget the human costs. 78 lives lost, countless other affected. This isn't just about law enforcement issues. It's actually a socio-economic one. Until we address the root of these causes, stories like these will keep dominating headlines. I have to let you know when it comes to that one.
Definitely, it will keep dominating these, landscape, and it is well said. I wonder what our viewers are thinking. However you weigh it, however you view it, please use the hashtag TheNewsDesk, or you can comment right there on the comment section and share your thoughts. Right, let's move over to business now. Taking a look at the fact that there is a new Afrikaans e-hailing service in Gauteng. I don't know, Babs. It feels like we are moving backwards again as a country. It's called Wanadu. It's the new e-hailing service in Gauteng that only employs drivers who can speak Afrikaans only. The company claims it's catering to a specific market, but critics are calling it an exclusionary and also a borderline of discriminatory. I don't know, Babs. What are your thoughts around this? That there is now an e-hailing service that is only hiring people who can speak Afrikaans.
And I have to tell you, at some point when I saw these headlines, I thought they were a joke. And I just had to go back again. And then I was like, no, man, this is actually true. Are we really going back to this now? And how is this going to affect business? You understand? Are we back into the segregation world now? That's some of the things that I actually asked myself. But it's definitely a bold move, Kagiso, But one of the risks is alienating a large portion of the market, while it might actually appeal to a niche audience. But it also highlights how language can actually be used as a tool for exclusions. Basically what I was just touch basing on right now. Just imagine right now, because it's really going to be difficult for a lot of people. So when it comes to the market, I'm thinking to myself, what if a lot of people who are actually requesting actually belong to the Afrikaans market, you know? I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
but
know, hey?
perhaps there's a lot of implications with this, because now I can also start my
Yeah.
own Zulu, e-hailing service in Gauteng, because I
Yeah.
just want to employ, and that kind of separates us. I think that we kind of fought this thing, and I still say that this racism and segregation is still not over in South Africa, because we are still seeing it happen. We are still seeing it move into that spectrum. But let's not ignore the financial implications. You know, if one were to succeed, we could see other companies adopting the similar strategy, and also,
Yeah.
or the public would backlash in order for them to reconsider. I think that the public definitely needs to backlash in order to reconsider this.
I 100% agree with you, you know, because how is this going to look? You understand? And it's honestly because it was enough, because we moved from having female drivers for safety
Sure.
reasons, and now we going to this type of language barriers. People saying that they do not understand. What does it mean? Because it's been quite some time we've been having these e-hailing services, and also now it's raising my questions. But are we going to have closer people now who will be on your belts, your Zulus? How is this going to affect us, you know?
Definitely.
But I definitely guess that time will tell. But one thing for sure is that the story will definitely spark conversations, you know, about inclusivity, identity, and I think the balance between catering to the market and diving
I
it.
was
Yeah.
actually was about to say that, but someone that sees this in a different view, Slow Under Gem 30 says that it's there to accommodate Afrikaans speakers and opening diversification of languages. Yes, you might see it as a diversification of languages, but however you see it, make sure that you do use the hashtag, or comment on our comment section there, or go on all our
Yeah.
social media platforms using the hashtag TheNewsDesk. This is a new
Yeah.
e-hailing thing that moves over into a country that only caters for South Africans. Right, as we wrap up the
You know,
behind the
another thing
headlines
that,
segment, let's quickly take over into the markets, how they are looking. The JSE closing off in quite a very dire territory this afternoon, taking a spot, looking that it kind of closed on a green, looking at 84,846 points their basis. And definitely the commodities, gold was trading at 2,742.78 cents, making an increase of 1.4% increase there. Looking at the old crude was at $80.15 rather, making a drop of 0.8% there, which shows that a barrel was only 80.15 cents there. As we look at the rand against the US dollar, you needed 18 rand 49 cents for you to get a dollar, and you needed 19 rand 28 cents for you to get a euro, and 22 rand 81 cents for you to get a pound sterling. That's how we wrap up behind the headlines. Let's shift over to the lead. Right, definitely it's that time of the evening where we're shifting focus into the lead, where we are shifting our focus onto dire issues that we are looking, and issues that are impacting us as a country. Just last week, the 2024 class of Matric received their results, and you know, a lot of mixed reactions there. And we saw also that there was an increase that was definitely happening within the pass rate, an increasing, shocking pass rate that we've seen within the country. And joining us to discuss this is no one that knows the space better than Solomon Kadiwa, who is the founder of Study Bryte Academic Coaching. Solomon, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the NewsDesk. It's great to have you, and happy 2025.
Great, great. Thanks, KG. Thanks for having me once again. Good to chat with you as always.
Very good to chat with you. You know, I always come with news bearing every time we meet. And definitely, I want us to start with the 2024 Matric class results, right? How do we summarize the overall performance of the class of 2024? I mean, were there any key trends or surprises that you might have also noticed in the past year?
It looked like the metrics for this year actually did better than expected. All round, there was a great performance. I liked the overall, if you look at the pass rate in all the 9 provinces, I had my eye on the Eastern Cape, because I think I raised a few months ago this progression policy, that there were progressing students who had never passed a grade. And sometime last year, there was a report of like 9,000 students that failed Matric because of the progression policy. So I had my eye on the Eastern Cape, but much to my surprise, it seems like they did very well. I mean, that's in the obviously the public sector. But by and large, it seems like the performance for the Matrics was quite impressive this year. And it seems like now the higher education institutions have got a lot of work on their hands trying to accommodate all these brilliant achievers. So yeah, that's my observation.
Yeah, very interesting developments that we see. We also seen that there's a lot of provinces that kind of outshine the others, like the Free State coming at the first position in these results. What do you think are some of the contributions that might have contributed into us making an historical Matric pass rate that we are seeing here, and also how can we make sure that this also levels up across all provinces in our country?
What I can see is that the effects of COVID-19 have worn off quite a bit. As you would know, that COVID played a significant role in affecting academic performance, but it seems like the country has now moved on from that. And teaching has come back to normal, and it seems like there's good activity in the education sector. I must warn though that sometimes the pass rates are misleading, in the sense that you can get this bachelor's pass rate, but it's one thing to get a bachelor's pass rate, it's another thing to get a place at a top university. Like, for example, I did a study of the absorption rate for the top 5 universities. The top 5 universities in the country, they only take top 7%, right? So you have to have like great, exceptional performance for you to get into the top 5 universities, right? So my question is, with all this great pass rate and all of that, are our higher education institutions equipped to absorb, this massive surge that we've seen in the Matric pass rate? And the other thing also is, I'd also like to encourage parents out there that, there are other various options, the TVET colleges, where one can, so it can be a skills based instead of just more of academic, and to pursue different avenues of tertiary education, to more on the skills side than just on the academic side, because they are needed in the economy, right? We need artisans. So I would also recommend those that have done well in the Matric to consider, skills based programs.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. So I love the fact that you also touched base on the TVET, and they were also talking about this today on Newsroom Africa, encouraging students to also enroll in TVET colleges. But it seems like it's a challenge. I'm not sure if maybe a lot of kids are not well informed when it comes to TVET colleges, because during the year they always go to career expo days where they're exposed in universities, and I think that they're not well informed when it comes to that space, because I think they also are programmed to know that after school you go straight to varsity. And I think there's still that mentality thinking that college is a place where you wouldn't succeed. I don't know, what's your take on this?
So we think it's a mindset thing where we need to educate, particularly high schools, because if you've noticed, the world right now in the space of education, education is moving more towards skills than just academics. For example, I'll just give you an example. There are tech companies like Google, IBM, and now even I see Amazon has joined the party. There's several other huge corporates that have come into the education space saying that, you know what, we're getting all these graduates from top universities, and I'm talking at a global level. I'm not talking just South Africa. I'm talking at a global level, right? They've noticed that the candidates that they've come into their companies from university, there is a skills gap. They have good qualifications. They're holding a PhD degree, a BA degree, or whatever, cum laude, all well and good, right? You would think that, okay, all well and good. But they have now invested. For example, Google have like some of the top 5 skills-based courses that they're actually offering online for free, right? Because they're saying we need to empower the candidates with the skills we want. I'm saying this to mention that we should not shun at TVET colleges, because skills-based training, we also need that alongside, the academics. It's unfortunate that it's almost like we've structured our economy in the sense that we are raising our kids to go into careers, not into entrepreneurship, right? So I strongly feel that there is even need for entrepreneurship to be introduced at a matric level, right? So that if you study entrepreneurship from a matric, as a matric subject, by the time you graduate from matric, you're not scrambling to go to university, but you've already decided, I want to be an entrepreneur. Your natural route then becomes a TVET, right? For whatever skill that you want to develop. So I feel that I think our economy will do better if we have more artisans in the space, and skills are looked at in the way we should look at skills, not just we have to have every child going to
university. You're someone that agrees with you here, Solomon, in our comment section. Phil got you again, says that we need more skill-based education, and I love the point that you just raised. I recently became a teacher, so I teach business studies, and with the content that I'm seeing there, I feel that it is high time that even the teaching style itself kind of shapes, learners into thinking like entrepreneurs, thinking that they want to start their business, because we're looking at a lot of learners who are like so eager to be going into, universities, and then when they get rejected, it becomes something that is, said towards them. But Solomon, we always focus on the pass rate, but is this passes quality passes that we are seeing in our country? And also, yes, we're talking about skills, that yes, we need to start looking into entrepreneurship and dive into these other things. But when will we ever get to a point where these passes, this pass rate becomes a quality one?
Right. So I've also noted that concern in terms of the pass rate, right? Because as I've mentioned, if you can say you've got a bachelor's pass, but is that bachelor's pass, how does that stack up with the global standard of education? For me, that leaves there's a gap there, right? I think qualitatively, we've got a long way to go in terms of just making sure that we raise our levels a little bit, right? I know that the Department of Basic Education has been at pains to explain that no, our matric qualification, it caters for different it caters for different candidates. There are those who want just a certificate to say I've been through matric. There's TVET, there's university, so we're catering for everyone. But I still feel that more needs to be done in terms of just making sure that we have, quality and not quantity, right? Because, as I mentioned, if you look at the top academic institutions, they're only taking 5 to 7%. I'll give you, for example, UCT. They receive about 95,000 undergraduate applications. But if memory serves, I think they take just below 5,000 per year. The same thing with like VITS. They receive about 110, give or take, 110,000. But they absorb only about 7,000, 7,500 students, first year undergrad. So to me, that says we really need to raise our game in terms of the quality of the passes and also the availability of the infrastructure for learning.
Definitely, even the infrastructure is so important. But I want us to look into 2025 now. What roles does early preparation and also setting up for learners can succeed, especially now that the grade 12s have already started? They went to school last week, schools opened last week. But how can schools better support them from day one moving forward until they're writing their finals? Because it does not only start when they are writing their finals, it starts from day one of their schooling.
Right. So you see that in terms of just getting the metrics ready, it's barely one thing that one can say, okay, this is the aspect. But a holistic view of education is that we're living in a highly digital age where our children are overstimulated, right? So you find that the teaching practices, teachers should now move from just being instructors to being facilitators of learning, right? So instruction, that's more like a one-way where you have the teacher in front of the class and they're giving instructions and all of that. This is what you ought to do. But I believe that if we change our approach from an instruction to become facilitators, what that means is that you facilitate critical thinking, right? You facilitate curiosity, right? So that it's more of inquisition type of learning than memorization, rote learning, instruction, but where you are saying to this, you are giving them the tools that they become inquisitive, they become curious in their own learning. And I also believe that there are different habits that a student has to espouse right from the beginning of the year. I'll just mention just briefly, right? What I call the academic success chain link. So it's a link. It's like a chain link, and all these things are interconnected. So the first one is preparation, where a student has from time every day they prepare for what's coming the following day, right? They preview the material, what they're going to learn the next day at school. And then the next point on the chain is that they participate, class participation skills, right? Active listening, note taking, self-advocacy, right? And then the third one is reflection. So after school, every moment after school, a student needs to sit back and say, okay, what am I learning? What challenged me at school today, right? What can I do about what has challenged me? How can I access additional resources to augment the gaps that I feel? So reflection, just a habit of reflecting and saying, what am I learning? What are my gaps? What can I do about my gaps? Makes a massive difference. So the second last thing is obviously the retrieval practice, where a learner gets into the learning method that involves activity, not rote learning, not memorizing, not relying only on memorizing, but just contributing to say what I'm doing, how much do I know, what have I missed, and then lastly, it will be re-encoding the information after you've done your retrieval. That okay, from what I've missed, how can I re-encode and relearn this in a better way? And again, the cycle starts again. So I believe if they espouse good healthy, productive habits right from the get-go, we're going to see a massive difference in the quality of the pass rate and results we get at the end of the year.
Definitely. I'm actually taking notes myself here that, when I go back to my learners, I know what is it that I also need to do. You were taking back to class where, there's 4 competencies that we look into: creative thinking, critical thinking, communication, and also, I'm forgetting the other one, but those competencies that actually encourage learners to make sure that they excel well. I love this cycle. As we wrap up this conversation, Solomon, what's your final words of encouragements that you have for the class of 2024 that have found their results and not knowing where to go, and also for the class of 2025 into, taking this new step?
So to the class of 2024, those that are still in limbo, and even those that didn't do well, right? A bad Matric result is not the end of the world. You can always bounce back. There's resilience, right? It will be a good time to just reflect on your journey. Why did I get the results that I did? Is there anything I can do differently? And also to access support, right? Different support networks, to say, what can I do? Because a bad Matric result is not the end of the world. You can bounce back from this. You just have to believe in yourself, pick yourself up and say, you know what? I'm going to get at it again, especially for the young people. Time is still on their side. They're still young. They still have there's still vitality, so there's much more to life than a Matric, or even to consider, like what we were talking about, the skills-based learning, right? Practical, hands-on learning that can propel you forward. And to the class of 2025, what I say is, it's rather espouse the values of effective learning right now. Don't wait until prelims to get serious. Get into the habit of every day reviewing your work, every day reflecting on your learning journey, see what you need, find out the kind of support that you need. And the more you do a little, it's better to do, spaced practice than massed practice, where you're sitting in one go and wanting to absorb. Don't rely on memorization. Rather rely on understanding first and then memorize later, right? So it's understanding, then memorization, not the other way around. So I would encourage our say a little bit every day is better than one sitting in the final stretch of the academic year.
Very interesting. As you're speaking here about memorizing, I'm thinking to every business studies teacher and also a history teacher, you'd know that the challenge is that our kids like to memorize, and they actually kind of, there's this thing we call it iskandal, where they're just writing a few notes just so that they can look into and copy into it every time they're writing exams. But I love the tip that they should start now and memorize later, because this thing of them coming up with extra notes that they're putting in to kind of cheat during exams, it's kind of challenge that we are seeing. But Solomon, thank you so much. We can go on and on talking about the education system in South Africa, but thank you so much for tonight, sharing your invaluable insights. More developments on the education sector, will definitely be calling you in to join the desk.
So much for having me. It was great being on your show, and all the best for the year. I'm looking forward to further engagement. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That is Solomon Kadiwa, who is the founder of Study Bryte Academic Coaching, he is the founder and also an academic coach. As you heard that he spoke some gems there, what learners can take and what learners can do in order to make sure that they have a better academic 2025, right? Now, as I mentioned, that it is a new season, and definitely we did try to shift some furniture around and bring in new fridges, new couches. And this is the new segments that we are going to be looking into that focuses on everything that is Africa by Africans. It's time for more breaking news and fresh news around the continent as we shift in Africa in View. Indeed, definitely. It's that time where we get into our brand new segment called Africa in View, which will be coming to you bi-weekly on a Tuesday, try to shape the stories that are hitting the African continent. And today we dive into the big major stories that we are seeing in Africa and get some commentary and analysis. And who's here to do it better? Sean is our African news editor, and she is here to kind of give us some scoop on everything that has been happening there. Sean, a very good evening to you. Welcome to the News Desk.
Good evening, Kagiso. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. This compliments of the new season doesn't end until probably, I think, when June, I guess. But yeah, compliments to the new season and welcome to the News Desk. And thank you so much. This partnership that we are having with Mulika Africa, try to give you up to date with everything that has been happening within the African continent. But Sean, let's start in Mozambique, where we're seeing that the new president was sworn in despite, a whole lot of backlash of people not wanting him to become the president. Even the opposition were boycotting there. But his inauguration comes against the backdrop of post-election violence, which has claimed over 300 lives since October, and also 8 people were killed in the protest during his inauguration. I don't know, what are your thoughts around this?
Honestly, even to start the year with Mozambique, the situation only amplifying from what we left it in towards the end of the year, I think is actually quite tough to see, quite tough to witness. The position is actually extremely dire, and I sympathize with the Mozambican people who have lost their lives in this fight, even as Venancio Mondlane seemed to have returned into the country as he was in exile, just to show a show of strength to the people in their fight for freedom and their fight from liberation from what was once a liberative movement, now to see it turn into the oppressor, the people to be freed from. I think, honestly, the irony is not something I am happy to see unfold at all.
Especially now with the environments that we are seeing, it just becomes like, we will never get to a point where Africa is at peace. But definitely, the Chapo promises unity and human rights. And what do you think would be his next steps in making sure that there is peace and there's also unity and there's also human, rights that are met within Mozambique?
Actually, so as far as that goes, I actually try to take lessons from the country I am originally from, I hail from, which is Kenya, which was in a similar position in 2007, 2008. We had a post-election violent period that during which we lost over 1,000 lives in the country and displaced multiples of thousands of more people in the country following election violence. And on account of that, especially what actually had to happen is one, negotiations that are honestly likely to manifest in a coalition government. Yeah, some kind of, because there's clearly enough appetite to see Venancio Mondlane involved in governance at some level, even if he may or may not have lost the election under dubious situations. But at this point in time, even just to calm the nation down, it is beyond the egos of any of these two people. It is now in the interests of everyone in Mozambique to bring the loss of lives to a stop and to a halt. Yeah, there's nothing more imminent and more urgent than that. And I think as far as that is concerned, I think what is likely to transpire and manifest out of this is a coalition government that may not necessarily result in either one of maybe joint rule or even just Venancio Mondlane being sworn in or being added as a vice president, for example. But in the case of Kenya, what happened is the opposition leader Raila Odinga was sworn in as a vice president, as a prime minister, despite the country already having a vice president. Yeah, it was a bit confusing having a president, vice president, prime minister, and 2 deputy prime ministers. Yes, but as much as I would rather it looks odd from an aesthetic perspective than be fatal just all around as far as the landscape of Mozambique is concerned.
Definitely. peace is something that we need in Africa. And speaking of peace, let's move on to Kenya now. Kenya has there's been a lot of rise within adoptions rather, and also we've seen that the Public Service Cabinet Secretary Justice Mutiri has alleged that the country's intelligence was behind his son's adoptions there. Let's talk about these adoptions that are happening in Kenya, and how do you think the government's credibility is being affected into this?
So Kenya finds itself in a very funny situation. Kenya was actually praised by the U.S. ambassador to Kenya in an audience of which former President Joe Biden was a member of. Kenya was hailed in 2023 as the healthiest democracy in Africa. Yeah, and with this in mind, obviously, we would like to earn the dollars and the dimes and the adoration and adulation that comes with that. But now, especially on account of the events that are unfolded in March of 2024 and the protests and finance bill protests that happened in June of 2024 and the events thereafter, it has actually seen a lot of that image deteriorate as we've seen the suppression of the will of the people and now extrajudicial killings and now abductions. There have been over 80 outstanding people being abducted in 6 months, in the last 6 months of the 2024 period. And as we've said there, even a minister of agriculture, a former attorney general, is not spared. His own son is not spared from this fate. And even going as far as infighting between the Ministry of Agriculture and the National Intelligence Service, it is a bit of a very much, a bit of a circus act, but also a very, very baffling deterioration of what was an image of Kenya that was trying to be projected as to be, almost, one of the good African countries.
I mean, Sean, it's a very tragic one. And looking at the fact that there has been 80 cases in the last 6 months. Sure.
It's frankly, it's outrageous. And in terms of attention, in terms of global attention, what actually transpired to the peak in terms of the attention drawn towards those is a lot of young, very young artists and media personalities, even political cartoonists, and that's actually often protected by free speech. But they were actually abducted around the Christmas period. Yeah, they went missing around the Christmas period. Of these were about 5 or so people that were abducted very abruptly in front of CCTV cameras whose footage just happened to evaporate before our very and then a lot of conversations went into the state of surveillance within the country and the extent to which people, even telecommunications companies, are actually complicit in the tracing of these individuals, even who are behind even anonymous accounts. And then actually what has actually, despite there's been a lot of activism that has mobilized to get the release of these people, but also beyond that, a lot of international pressure to pressure the bodies that actually exist in Nairobi, such as the UN office that actually exists in Nairobi, for example. And then finally, the Law Society of Kenya, which has actually been very, very vigilant in terms of always taking to the courts to get people back slowly. But honestly, it cannot even be fast enough, truly, because in the first place, these people should not be taken from their homes.
For Kenya, that this abductions may end so that everyone may feel safe in their own country. Lastly, let's move over to what we're seeing as an African campaign now that we are trying to expel French troops outside of Africa. Ivory Coast has been one of the sixth African country to cut military ties with France. French troops who have been stationed there for decades will soon be leaving as the country distance itself from the former colonial power. What do you think about this movement that Africa is now taking, Sean?
Honestly, I think it is one of the positive highlights to cover today. I think it is a very encouraging development, although one that I would not encourage without some caution. Yes, and I'll expand why, and just particularly because the Francophone countries of West and Central Africa are some of the countries in which the French are still the most entrenched in, and former colonial powers are the most entrenched in, even to a capacity even not comparable to even Commonwealth countries. So in terms to see them divest from security cooperation with the French, honestly, is even encouraging as a sign that you'll also see them divest from even fiduciary collaboration with the French in terms of debasing their monetary policies from the CFA franc, the reserves of which for so many countries in Central and Western Africa are actually deposited in French central bank. Yes. So I think there's a lot of cause for optimism of that, as far east as Chad, as far west as Senegal and Ivory Coast. There's a lot to celebrate. Obviously, a lot of that being pioneered rhetorically by some brave efforts by the leader of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore, almost leading the charge. But the only thing I would say there is cause for apprehension for and vigilance is just with regards to the significant security concerns that exist in the Sahel region, bordering probably more closer south towards, towards the Sahara Desert and before the Gulf of Guinea. So many of these countries include, as far east as Chad and as far west as Senegal and Ivory Coast, that are fulfilling the vacuum being left by these French troops in combating what has actually unraveled as extremist insurgencies. Yeah, they are filling that void by recruiting paramilitary organizations such as the Wagner Group from Russia. And I'd say, as far as that is concerned, one, it is very important that they defeat any and all insurgents. In fact, to the extent at which collaboration between insurgents and the French were alleged, I hope, if this is a sign of things to come, that it will even weaken them. And also, as we welcome new, contractors to help their efforts to secure their countries, one, my motivation, I'm completely rooting for them in all these pursuits. I only think it is very important that we do not allow us to find ourselves in a similar position, but now under new captors in this divestment.
And I wonder, what are your thoughts around the independence of Africa? We are seeing that, these countries are now turning to other powers like Russia. What are your thoughts around this, Africa becoming independent?
Yes, so I think it is very important for Africa to project a stance of unalignment. We are not interested in taking sides in what some may term as the Second Cold War, or an alliance against the Axis powers. We see these terms floated around, NATO, one or the other, with regards to struggles for power between the US and Russia and China. I think as far as it is concerned, we should take the best deal on the table, and at the end of the day, we should always be cautiously collaborate. I think the term I really emphasize is cautiously collaborate, because at the end of the day, it is no one's business to mind other than Africans. So at the end, when it comes to taking on partners, we just take up who is in our best position to help us secure and pursue the mandates we would like to, and pursue the best futures for Africa.
Definitely. It is now more than ever where Africans need to unite in making sure that this continent is being safeguarded and making sure that it is protected. Right. Sean, as we wrap up this conversation, what do you think of these developments? Tell us about the trajectory of Africa in 2025.
I think Africa is 2024 was so much for Africa in terms of so many changes of administration. So many countries, for the first time in their history, in the history of these nations, actually changed their leadership ideologically, personality-wise. And honestly, I think the wave is not yet done. We're not actually set for the same amount of elections, but there's much to come. I think the appetite for a young population for a change is still very palpable. And I think early on in the year, I really anticipate what is actually setting up to be a very significant election as far as the chairmanship of the African Union, which is set to be hotly contested between candidates from Madagascar, Djibouti, Kenya, even vice presidential candidates from Algeria and Morocco, and so on and so forth. So I think that would probably be the first, contestation of power for regional representation at the, greatest Pan-African institution we currently have. And then thereafter, we will see what truly we are set for as far as 2025 is concerned.
Definitely interesting times to be alive in Africa. Sean, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much as always. I know that me and you will be doing this bi-weekly on a Tuesday, so we'll keep everyone informed on everything that is African.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, and very happy to see you again so early in the year. Look forward to it again.
Thank you so much for your time indeed. Right, that is Sean, who is our African news editor in collaboration with Mulika Africa, as we are, trying to keep you informed in everything that is not only locally, not only internationally, but also that is happening within our African spectrum. I see Drilla Picasso. Oh, okay. Hashtag independent SA is the biggest move that will change our country. We definitely want to see African countries making an independence and being independent from the rest of the world. And speaking of things that we are keeping you up to date, still sticking with the feature of new segments, we have a new segment as Khumbudzo, our sports editor, is standing by to give us the very latest in the world of sports as we shift over into the sports desk. All right, it's that time of the evening where we give you the very latest in a quick roundup of the sports that have been happening within the international spectrum and also the local spectrum. And here to do it with me is our sports editor. It's a very brand new segment. Khumbudzo, thank you so much for joining me. Happy New Year and welcome back to the News Desk.
Happy New Year, Kagiso! 2025. We're back with another banger. Yes, thank you, Kagiso. Happy New Year to you too. So yeah, I'm just outside here, to kick off 2025 by diving into some of the big sports stories.
Definitely.
There's always, there's already so much happening, and it's just January.
It's just January.
We haven't hit February yet, but already a lot is happening.
I love the energy that you're bringing, that it's just January and people are stressing, but there's still other events happening within the sports world. But let's start off with the first one. Mohamed Salah saying that, Liverpool star and one of the most consistent players in the world is reportedly heading for the exit door. The former Premier League striker Darren Brent claims that Salah's behavior during Liverpool's recent win over Brentford suggests that he is ready for the next step. I don't know, what are your thoughts around this?
So, when we speak about Salah, we just have to be honest about this guy, because so far this guy has been a game changer for Liverpool. But the truth is, it's going to take us back to how Cristiano Ronaldo has been let go from Man United. No player is bigger than the club, regardless of how good of a player you are. I mean, you're not bigger than the club, because the guy has 21 goals and 16 assists this season, and those numbers are insane. But if you watch his body language lately, it's clear something is off. I mean, that's Salah. He plays for my favorite team, so I can see a lot when he's playing, man. But maybe he feels like it's time for a new challenge, or maybe he's frustrated that Liverpool isn't competing at the level he used to. I mean, new coach means new everything.
Yeah. And it's
this
definitely
is
not a
not
bad
flawed.
thing for you to actually find, if the place is no longer fulfilling to your dreams and not living to your expectation, it's never a bad thing to move there. And also, fans are divided here. Some are ready to see him go, and some are saying we can't imagine Liverpool without Salah. What do you think that the club should cash in now, or should they try to hold in for another season?
It's tricky, it's tricky if Liverpool gets a big offer, and I think PSG or one of those Saudi Arab clubs might be smart enough to like to reinvest in young talent. Yeah, but using Salah would be like losing your own heartbeat. That guy has played for the team
Ish,
for so long.
ish,
He has brought up
ish.
change. He has played with, like, he has done a lot for that team.
Mm,
Each and every season, it's either he's on the top five or on the top three,
mm,
because he is playing. But either way, Klopp will have to plan carefully
yeah.
this time. Like, Slot will have to plan carefully this time. You know, uh, mm, it's like we just have to see if Salah is leaving
Yeah,
or he's staying,
we'll
you know. But
see.
so far,
Yeah.
like for me, I feel like he shouldn't leave. But at the same time, we do need fresh legs in the team.
Mm,
Like we
mm,
need to let go of him. He has to be out there.
mm.
We have
I
to
love the
see him in a different league.
I love the fact that you reiterated that it's like losing your heartbeat at this. I can imagine the management there. What are they trying? I think probably right now what they're trying to do is trying to keep him so that we can keep all the wins. All right, let's move over to cricket now that we're seeing that Paul Royals dominate SA20 with victory over Johannesburg Super Spurs. And looking at the Paul Royals are riding higher after a divisive win against the Johannesburg Super Spurs in this SA20 league. Mitchell van der
Mhm.
Burn and David Miller led the charge, chasing a 145-run target with ease. Khotato, are the Royals looking in a real contender, becoming rather real contenders this season and making them so dominant?
It's simple. The simple thing.
Yeah,
Chemistry and smart cricket.
yeah, yeah.
When you talk about this, like the Royals have a balanced squad that is clinging in all the right ways. You know, they got it all covered. And you've got like haters. Who's this guy? Vajon
Mm-hmm.
shutting down the batsman early, and Mila incurring the chase like a true pro.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
and let's not forget who's this guy? Michel Van Buren. I can't pronounce this guy's names, eh? But let's not
Don't
forget
worry,
this
we
guy,
forgive you.
you know. And this kid is on fire, if you have to be honest about him. Buren is one of the guys who's on fire so far. He's on form and everything. And he's got that mix of aggression and
Mm.
composure, and that makes him so
Mm.
dangerous.
Yeah, and that's not only that what we wanting. We need that player who is definitely, a dangerous player, the one that we know we are taking out the best of the best. And it's not just the betting, again, also, it's also the a bowling attack that has also been resentless this lately, keeping the opposition under pressure. Do you think they have what it takes to go all the way?
1,000%.
Joanna.
One 1,000%. Like 1,000%. If they keep up the form, they're not just contenders.
Mm,
They are the team to beat. Plus, their momentum is going to next few games and is solid.
mm,
And what I
mm,
could say is watch out for them in the playoffs.
mm. Definitely, we are going to watch out for them in the playoffs. Yes. It's a quite one. And looking at the series that has been happening, it's been a series that has been happening year in, year out. But them coming out this way, I think also that they are going to be moving forward with this.
Oh, definitely.
All right.
Definitely.
All right, Khothatso, thank you so much for your time as we wrap up the sports desk. We'll be keeping us up to date with the Weekend Chronicles on Monday, and also again on the news desk here, just to keep us informed on everything that is the very latest in the world of sports. That is Khothatso Mashau, our sports editor. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome, Kagiso. Thank you very much for your time. And remember, folks, the beauty of sport is that it's always up for debate. You know, so stay tuned because 2025, it's just getting started. And there's a lot to come. So tune in on the Weekend Chronicles with Khumbudzo Ntshavheni. And let's get it all there. Let's get it up there because I'm always up for debates. And Kagiso, once again, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Indeed, because that's what they're reiterating that there is plenty more still to come here on TellAVision, where we inform, impact, and inspire. Not forgetting that this is our 5th year as we're doing this together. Thank you so much to everything that has been transpiring today. Our guest, Solomon Kadiwa, Africa Milani's Sean, who was here giving us the Africa in view. Not forgetting also Bob stepping in, you know, to give us the very lowdown in the break behind the headlines as we try to track everything from diving into the big headlines in the day to the big stories and unpacking everything in sports. So recently with Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, our sports editor. Coming up on Thursday, the Political View comes back here on the NewsDesk as we were joined by political analyst Tsepo Mazola as we try to discuss everything that has been happening within the political landscape and try to shape it to look into the fact, what does the political scene look like in South Africa for 2025? And then in other news comes back with your entertainment and lifestyle editor, Samu, is going to be joining us to give us the latest scoop in everything that we need to know in the world of entertainment. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Remember that you can follow us on all our social media platforms to get your updates and all the behind-the-scenes content. I am Kagiso Sithole, and it has been a great pleasure to be with you. This was the NewsDesk. Until we meet again, do look after yourself. Good night.